Have you been lied to by a narcissist, or maybe you've been lied to by a toxic person over and over and over again, or with multiple people that they've been lying to, and you're wondering, like, how in the world do they keep it all straight? Like, it seems like they lie so much that people would figure it out, but they're lying to so many different people. How does it even make sense? How's it even practical? How do they survive that? We're going to dive into that a little bit today. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness, growth, healing, change, and development. Wanted to just announce really quick, we've got a quick opportunity that's coming up called the 45-Day Clarity Challenge. Right now, we're taking applications. People are signing up currently to be able to get into the challenge starting here just a couple days. You want to be able to take a look at this, you can go to claritychallenge.net to be able to see how we're actually scripting out a process to be able to take back your power and discover you after being with a narcissist or a toxic person. If you're still in the relationship and you're wondering, is this going to be something that's helpful for me? The answer is 100% yes. We have several people that are in the whole program that are still in the toxic relationship. And what they're doing is they're going through it to be able to help provide that mental clarity and also that mental freedom from that toxic environment. So check it out. Go to claritychallenge.net. Would love to have you a part of the new group that's coming through this coming month. When we're talking about narcissists, we're talking about how much they lie, like how much they just lie constantly. And you can't tell what's true, right? Like it seems like the lies get all blended together and you're not sure like what's even going on. So we're going to talk a little bit today about narcissists having a double life, their compartmentalization when we talk about lies, how it actually comes together if the narcissist actually knows what's going on, the impact it has, and how you're going to see through those. Like how does that actually help you moving forward? Okay, so when we talk about it, narcissists oftentimes will have a double life. Okay, with this secret life, sometimes we refer to it as the mask, but it can come across in so many different variations. Now, when you think of a double life, you might think of like someone who's living two complete opposite lives, and sometimes that's the case. Sometimes we'll be having someone who comes and they're working on their healing journey and things like that, and we realize like, hey, they were in a relationship with a narcissist, or they were in a relationship with this toxic person that had a completely other family, that a completely other life, and they didn't even realize it. Now, that might be on the extreme sometimes when we're talking about these different relationships, but it does happen. Sometimes that double life will look like having different affairs, where a narcissist will have multiple affairs with multiple people, sometimes multiply at the same time, to be able to have that control, power, dominance, all those things. But the lies are so many. Like there's so many lies that are integrated into all of it. So many pieces of like trying to keep everything straight from one person to the next. And you often see a narcissist with these lies develop and construct different types of masks depending on the person that they're with. Different type of mask that gives them a false sense of reality, a false sense of a different reality in each person, with each person. And a lot of times that mask is a different type depending on the people that they're around. It's a version of reality for the narcissist to be able to portray to other people, to be able to portray that they're a good person, to be able to portray that they're faithful, to be able to portray that they're honest, whatever it might be, and it's put out there for other people to see, and other people are like, oh, but they don't realize what's actually underneath the mask. Well, before I knew of the actual word compartmentalization, like the actual official word, I always viewed stuff as boxes. Like I really had this concept like growing up of like understanding and knowing that I dealt with stuff in boxes. That I would take a box off the mental library of my mind. I would take a box out, I could open it up, I could put stuff into the box and put it away. Or I could take the box and I could take stuff out, experience them, interact with them, put them back in, and then put them away. We're talking about emotions, we're talking about feelings, we're talking about memories, we're talking about a lot of different things that I realized I was actually compartmentalizing. So you see, I viewed my mind as this giant like warehouse with boxes in it. And if I had a memory that I didn't want to remember, I would box it up, close it up, tape it up, and put it in the far back recesses of my mind so I didn't have to worry about it anymore. The problem is when I started to put my own actions in those boxes and hide them, because then I was trying to sedate and to hide myself from actually being the person that I was showing up as I was being. A liar, a cheater, a fake, a fraud. And so many times I would take those things and I would put them in the back of my mind to ignore them and then forget about them because I didn't want to deal with them. I didn't want to deal with the accountability or the responsibility of having to own those things. So you close them up, disregard them, hide them, even try to delete them. Now, oftentimes you see narcissists that use this style, this system of compartmentalization to be able to be very effective liars. Because it ends up showing that one thing doesn't exist anymore. Like this version of reality that I've boxed up and put away no longer actually exists. Sometimes this is why you can have an argument with a narcissist, and they walk out of the room, and when they walk back in, it's like nothing ever happened. You just had a screaming interaction with the narcissist for 2 hours. And they walk back in, and they're like, what do you want for dinner? And sometimes that switch happens so much. One, to make you feel like you're ridiculous for bringing it up or having a problem with it. And then two, there's this compartmentalization piece of let me put it away. Now it no longer exists. Now I just continue on with my life. I don't have to worry about it. I'm not a bad person, etc., etc. Sometimes there's this aspect of having two realities. Now, when I talk about two realities with a narcissist, I'm not talking about like schizophrenia or having two distinct things that they believe are real. I'm talking about developing two different ones to be able to soothe their ego, to be able to soothe the lies that they believe, to be able to soothe the aspect of the accountability and responsibility. So developing two separate things. And when a narcissist develops two separate realities, it's this idea of I'm going to live in this reality and I'm going to live in this reality. But I know I can't do both at the same time. I know I have to switch back and forth depending on the person that I'm around, depending on the mask that I have to create. So the concept with this is thinking through, I have this reality and I have this reality. So for me, I am faithful to my wife and I'm also faithful to this other affair. Two separate realities, two separate people, two separate things that are going on. The hard part was not keeping the truth in those individual relationships. The hard thing was the jump in between. Or sometimes the blend of getting too close and trying to figure out, which version did I tell which person? And that's when a lot of times you'll see a narcissist in multiple affairs, relationships, you'll start to see a blend, you'll start to see things slide, and you're like, wait a second, you didn't text me that. You didn't tell me that. That wasn't something we talked about. We didn't go there. And you start to put together the pieces that something doesn't match up. Compartmentalization, it works for multiple relationships. Narcissists oftentimes use it for multiple relationships to keep them separate, to be able to say, I'm being honest here because this no longer exists. I'm being honest here because this no longer exists, and then the switch back and forth. Sometimes, when I'm talking about compartmentalization, sometimes you might be wondering, wait a second, am I a narcissist because I compartmentalize? There's sometimes that survivors have to compartmentalize to be able to survive, to be able to get through the nitty-gritty part of the frustrating relationship so they have their freedom and they have their exit strategy already put into place. Sometimes there's compartmentalization that has to happen there. Just know that whatever you box up, you need to also be able to come to terms with, you need to deal with later. Because you need to be able to have a positive environment to work on you and to continue to grow, heal, change, and develop. And so this huge concept, this huge aspect of keeping all the lies straight, it is so hard because a narcissist has to be able to keep them straight with so many different people. It's not just one person. Sometimes it is, but then you add in coworkers, you add in the boss, you add in friends and family, you add in all these different people, and it looks like, hey, this is something I just want, so I'm going to do this, but I'm going to hide it from this person. And this is where it gets people confused because they see different masks. Sometimes you'll see a version of the narcissist for you, and that version of the narcissist to another person is completely different. This is where you start to get the cognitive dissonance, and they're trying to be what's your problem? Why does it matter? What are you talking about? And you're like, but you're doing this. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they start to paint a completely different picture than the one that you've been seeing, than the one that you've been believing. Okay? So in talking about this, I'm trying to give you this groundwork, this layout of this idea of the narcissist keeping all the lies straight. It's by this compartmentalization. It's by trying to be able to put it in a box, put it in a certain frame so that they're this is the only thing that exists. Now this is the only thing that exists. So think of it that way. Hopefully that makes sense. Breaking down compartmentalization, how it actually works, how it actually goes. Was not planning on spending so much time on compartmentalization, but when we're talking about this, the narcissist lives a double life. Now, the double life might be with another person, or it might be just with themselves. That double life of putting up a mask and then ending up controlling everybody else around them to be able to get the desired result, to be able to get what they want, to be able to feel better about themselves, whatever it might be. But that double life is 100% real. It's just typically we see it in the term of calling it a mask. And that mask is what the narcissist is in love with, not you and not themselves. The mask is what the narcissist is in love with because the mask is the thing that paints them in a good light, in a good picture to everybody else out there. All right. We're running out of time on this one, so we're actually going to make this one into 2 parts of talking about keeping the lies straight. If you're curious or if you're trying to figure out how do I figure out some of the lies, I want to invite you to be able to pick up our journal. You can go to rawmotivation.com/books. We've got the journal, and we've also got the new journal from Regret to Gratitude that's coming out as well. You can have access to that at rawmotivations.com. Super excited to be here, and we will jump into this a little bit later today. I'll drop another video that we guys can finish this up of how do narcissists actually keep the lies straight. So I'll be back with that. Thank you so much. If you want to interact with me, then you can go to rawmotivations.com. If you want to sign up, sign-ups are wrapping up here this week for the 45-day challenge coming up here soon. So please check that out at claritychallenge.net. Thanks so much, and y'all have a great day.